Dylan Alcott has transformed what it is to be a Paralympic athlete in this country. He's taken us from the human interest pages to be the lead articles in sport. From basketball to tennis to winning Logies. He's the perfect person to join me for a conversation about excellence. Dylan Alcott, welcome to 1+1.
Thanks, mate. It's good to be here. Normally 1 + 1 = 2, but most people think you and I are the same person. So
well, it leads me into the first question. So how hard was Kokoda?
Exactly right, mate. It's funny. You know, obviously I wore the brunt of that growing up because you were quite famous when I started my sporting career. And I remember this vivid story once when I went to the Spring Carnival, went to the races, and this guy came up to me and he was like, mate, you're my family's hero, like, we love what you do. And I'd won a basketball gold medal at this point. So I was like, oh, it's, you know, great that someone recognises me. And then, you know, he was saying how much it meant to meet him and things. And I was like, you're welcome, mate, you know, have a great day. And as I rolled off, he's like, cheers, Kurt. And I was like, oh.
He also tagged me on social media.
There you go. Yeah, and then I think as my profile kind of got a bit bigger, and then you started to feel a bit what I've felt.
Well, I have to say though, in the more recent years, every time that I cross into the Murray, it's more and more I am Dylan Alcott, and I'm leaning into it.
Yeah, but 100%. When they say to you, congrats on the Aussie Open or love you on the radio, just say cheers.
Yeah. So what do you think about that though? Why do you think that's the case? Do we look the same?
You know what? I am firm that we don't. Like, I've always been like, I don't think we look alike, right? So I think I'm younger, and people think you look younger. I'm like, oh, that's a knock on me. And, you know, but I think we both have beards. We both have big shoulders. And obviously we're both in wheelchairs. So, you know, I think it's a compliment to each other because I love, you know, you and you love me. So I think it's cool that, you know, sometimes we do get compared. In another sense, maybe it's a bummer because maybe the public think all disabled people look the same.
We're in the mid of one of the strangest situations that the world has ever seen. I struggled through my final 12 months of my career. It was the hardest 12 months of my life. I couldn't imagine to be where you are. I know that this was going to be your final games. How are you going with the extension of the Paralympics into 2021?
Yeah, it was, you know, tough when the news came that the coronavirus pandemic was going to delay the Paralympic Games. Hopefully it is just delayed, you know. Hopefully we can figure out a vaccine and definitely go ahead in 2021, but there's still a lot of work to do. But, you know, I love my career, I love what I do, but I also love what I do outside of sport, you know, work in the media, the work with the Dylan Alcott Foundation, you know, trying to, I guess, build capacity for people with a disability to get out there and live the lives that they want to do. And I'm not going to lie, it's really hard doing everything at once, you know, hosting radio and things like that and training. It was starting to wear on me a bit. I'm getting old. I'm 29 now, mate. I'm getting washed up. So, you know, I think potentially Tokyo could have been my last Paralympic Games. So to then find out that now it's a year away, it was hard. It really was, because I was gearing up, getting fit, feeling great, really ready for this to be in 2020. So I'm not going to lie, it was a bummer, but I then drive down the street and see people lining up at Centrelink. I see people who are in hospital who are sick. I see people around the world who have had much bigger losses than I have, which means training for an extra year to go to the Paralympic Games. So it's all about that perspective. And, you know, I'm going to keep doing my best to keep putting my best foot forward to try and peak at the right time, because I think I was going to peak at 2020. So now moving that peak, you would know as an athlete, is really hard to do. I think it's going to be hard for all athletes. So I keep reminding myself that.
You almost have to be consumed by it. So when you have so much going on in the periphery, there's so much to your lifestyle. But when it comes to a Paralympic year, it becomes almost life. What does it mean to you to be a Paralympian?
It means everything to me to be a Paralympian. The example that I give is when people come up to me and be like, mate, you've won three Olympic gold medals. And I immediately stop them and say, I haven't got an Olympic gold medal. I've got a Paralympic gold medal. And they say, oh, yeah, but, you know, it's like the Olympics. I'm like, no, it's not. It's completely different, and there's nothing wrong with that. We aren't the, you know, poor little brother or sister anymore. We aren't the second event anymore. I don't think we ever were, but in the eyes of the community, maybe it was. And I think the reason that I'm so proud of the Paralympics and being a Paralympian is that I am genuinely 100% really proud to have a disability, first and foremost. I love having my disability. And to be honest, if I could walk, if I was able-bodied, would I have 3 gold medals? Would I have 10 Grand Slams? Would I have won 6 Australian Opens in Laver Arena? Probably not. I don't think I would have. And I mean, maybe I would have, who knows? But all I know now is that I have. And the reason that I have, and one of the part reason that I have is that I have a disability. And I call the Olympic Games the crappy warm-up event for the big show, which is the Paralympic Games. And I mean that.
What goes through your head as you're about to enter the field of play?
It's a really interesting question. I think I've learnt this as I've got older and a bit more mature. A lot of athletes have different mindsets of how they go about it. And I think the biggest thing for me is to really stay in the moment and enjoy the moment and don't shy away from it. You hear so many people say, oh, I feel nervous, or there's pressure. Why do you get up every morning and train your absolute ass off if you don't want to feel nervous? And you want to put yourself in positions where you want to feel pressure. That's why we do it, isn't it? Like, you don't understand how nervous I am pushing out here to play in Laver Arena. This year there was 12,000 people, and everywhere I looked, I saw a face that I knew, and all the pressure was on there to try and do it. But that made me smile because I love that feeling. And the other thing that I guess I really think about the most is really enjoying the moment and having fun. I used to not do that as much, and it's something I regretted in my basketball career. I had a successful basketball career, but I probably didn't enjoy the big matches as much as I should have because I'm a happy guy. So all of a sudden, when I go on the field of play, I want to be a killer, I want to win, but I don't want to be too different to the person that I really am. Because when you really are yourself, you perform at your best. Whether it's in a job interview, on a date, playing sport, it's all relative. And I really try and remind myself to have fun out there and enjoy what I'm doing.
Where did you learn that?
From experience. I learned that from experience. And I am, I guess, lucky that I'm a holistic thinker in everything that I do. And I just realised that I enjoy my life and I perform best and I am myself the most when I'm having fun in life, when I'm being myself. So all of a sudden, when I went on the tennis court, I'd watch Rafa or whatever and be like, look how intense he is. I've got to be more intense. I have to be intense. Rafa dominates, right? And then I'd do that. And then I'd be like, I probably wouldn't be playing as well as I would normally. And then I realised that I don't need to be anybody else. I've got to be me. And if I be me, I put myself in a position where I can beat anybody in the world.
The personal best that you're seeking, that is what you would define as excellence.
It's so interesting. It's an interesting question. I used to define myself on winning gold medals and winning Grand Slams, right? The result. And I have to shy away from that because I had one of the biggest losses of my career at the US Open in 2019. I was going for the calendar Grand Slam, the last player to do it. Male Australian was Rod Laver. And that's all I wanted, right? Winning or nothing. And in that moment, I let myself down in my performance because I was thinking about everything else. That's all I wanted, and I wasn't focusing on just doing the best that I can do, and just the result will, take care of itself, whatever that is. So your expectation cannot be winning. It cannot be gold medals. It cannot be Grand Slams. It cannot be that. It can be the best that you can do, and the result will fall into place. And as soon as I started reminding myself in everything that I do, the pressure goes away because the only pressure you have is to perform the best that you can do.
Did you speak about that in New York? I know that hurt. You felt like you let people down around you. Is there a feeling that you need to be perfect to be seen as equal to your non-disabled peers?
That is one thing about Paralympic sport, and I know you've experienced this as well. You can't win one Grand Slam. You have to win every Grand Slam to be rated equal to an able-bodied person in terms of their achievements. And, maybe because we have a smaller pool of players or whatever it is, right? There might be part true, but that pressure is a lot. And I'll tell you another pressure that is hard to let go. The reason I want to win all Grand Slams and the reason I want profile is not to say, hey, Dylan, great job. It's to have influence in my community. That's why I do what I do, and that's why you do what you do, We are there to provide better opportunities for the billions of people with a disability around the world to get out and live the life that they want to live. And I love winning Grand Slams, yes, but I love what it does for me more, which is give that platform and that voice to be able to do it. So to be able to get that, in our situation, you've got to win everything. And that hit me. I was thinking about that. I wanted to win. I wanted to get nominated for Australian of the Year, I wanted to, get out there and really try and help. I really genuinely do, and I know you do as well. And to do that, you've got to win everything. And unfortunately, that expectation to win everything gets the better of you sometimes. So now, all that stuff might come, it might not come. Who cares? Just be Dylan, be me, and see what happens. And then in that case, and in that, when that happens, you can actually be the best version of you and perform at your best.
We'll go back to the emotions that you feel when you go into sport. And I'm looking around here. It's my first time in Laver Arena. What do you feel when you sit here at this place it's played a massive part in who you are?
Oh, I feel lucky to have a very, 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 very small minor bit of history here. And, I've done things here that you wouldn't even know. Like, obviously, I've won 6 straight Opens here. I've also rapped with the Wu-Tang Clan here at Laver Arena. Whenever I see Rod Laver, he comes up and says, "G'day, Dill, we're mates." Can you believe that? I'm mates with Rod Laver. And I grew up in Melbourne. I used to come here. I used to sit right here and watch Davis Cup tennis, the Australian Open, music events. This is where it is. And to be able to go out and roll out there and play on this court, it's so special. But it's also special for me that, when I won my third Australian Open, it was the first time ever a wheelchair tennis match had been played on a Grand Slam centre court for a title. So, it was Tennis Australia took that leap, and then the TV broadcasters put it on air, and then all of a sudden it's kind of normal now. But that was not normal. When I went back to tennis, I played one Australian Open match here my first year, and there was 7 people watching. You know what I mean? And things like that. So that's why it's special to me, and it means more than just an arena. It really is a beacon for being inclusive in inclusive sport, and just the connection that I have to it. Like, look at me looking at it. Like, I'm in love with it.
It's progress.
Yeah, but it's
change.
It really is. Like, I can't stop looking at it. And you get that feeling as well. It's a beautifully designed stadium where it's up and the fans are on you, which is awesome when you're winning, not good when you're losing. And if you told a kid with a disability growing up who hated himself there'd be no way that I would have believed that I'd have that experience. So it's pretty special to me.
You've touched on 3 or 4 moments there that are all pinch myself moments. They're all out of this world moments. What is the biggest pinch yourself moment that you've got?
I'm lucky that I've done a lot of things that I never expected that I would have done. I think the things that mean the most, obviously the winning gold in Rio when I'd given up basketball to go to tennis, that meant a lot. Winning Australian Opens here on Laver Arena. And then 2 things you probably wouldn't expect. One of them is the first time I rapped on stage with Wu-Tang Clan. I'm not a rapper. I don't rap. I crowd surfed at a music festival called Meredith Music Festival. They said we need someone to do the Method Man verse of their main song, Protect Your Neck. I'd had about 20 beers. I'd crowd surfed. He picked me. It was like watching a car crash. No one knew my name at this point. I guess it's 2013. So, I didn't even play tennis. Just started playing tennis. And they're like, look at this disabled guy. He's about to embarrass himself, in front of 20,000 people. And then I rapped every word perfect. I've never seen just the crowd just go bananas. That was probably one of the moments I was most proud of myself. And the final thing is the work that we did at Ability Fest. We run a music festival where we raise money for the Dylan Alcott Foundation, where we help kids with disability achieve what they want to do. But Ability Fest itself is just like any other music festival, like Splendour, like Falls, like Beyond the Valley. We just have some added accessibility features for people with a disability to come. Elevated platforms, pathways, Auslan, sign language interpreters on stage for every lyric, and just speaking to the people with a disability that came who had never been to any event ever of any kind. So they'd never been to anything like that. And for them to be in tears saying thank you, we didn't do it for that reason. I didn't even think that would happen. I just wanted to provide that experience because I loved it. And just seeing the impact that it had is pretty cool. And then seeing Splendour in the Grass, Beyond the Valley, make their festivals more accessible now because they realise that people want to come is pretty cool. So they're probably my 4 things.
We fast forward 12 months and we're going into the Paralympic Games. I've got tickets to I did have tickets to this year's. singles gold medal match.
Can I have them?
And I am going to try and make sure that I keep them. But what would winning that gold medal mean to you now?
Oh, I can't even speak about it. It meant everything. And losing it would be devastating. And I'm upfront about that. And I think it is all about perspective. And, you know, I have a beautiful partner, Chantel, who I love. Got a great family. I've got a lot going for me. So I try not to place as much weight on that gold medal now. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm so lucky to be me. Like, I live the best life of anybody I've ever met. You know, I really do. And you know, if I didn't win that gold medal, it wouldn't define me. You know what I mean? It'd just be a part of my story. But in saying that, I am busting my ass to try and do that. I'll do everything that I can to try and win that. But as I've got older, I've realised I'll also put everything that I can to enjoy the moment.
So how did you meet Chantal?
Yeah, we actually met at my book signing. So I'd written a book, but she came with a friend and she had no idea who I was. And I was, you know, I tried to cancel this book signing like 5 times because I forgot to promote it. So I was like, there'll be no one there. My manager's like, you got to do it. I'm like, there'll be no one there. I get there, there's like 600 people there. I was like, sold out. I couldn't believe it. Everyone there was everyone there had a disability. They're a bit older, or this absolutely like glamour. Down the back of the room, I was staring at her. And then the book signing finished and she didn't come up. I was like, where did she go? And so she's a psychosexologist, which means she's done a psychology degree, but also a doctorate in sexual medicine. So, you know, she talks about sex and disability, and I talked about that in the book. So she put up she called it breadcrumbing. She put up a little thing on her Instagram saying, Dylan Alcott talks about sex and disability. And I replied and I said, where did you go? So she knew I was staring at her. So, yeah, and then, and she was overseas for a while and we didn't see each other, but, you know, as soon as we caught up, I'm not going to lie, I fell in love with her the moment I saw her, and she says the same thing.
So is she your carer or your girlfriend?
Oh, she's definitely my girlfriend.
Have you been asked that before? Because I've been asked.
Oh, for sure. I mean, in my previous relationships a lot. I think now because we're have profile, maybe there's a little bit less of that. But, I mean, I was in Thailand with my first girlfriend, Chelsea, who's an absolute legend, and this guy was hitting on her, and he's like, tried to kiss her, and she's like, and he's like, oh, I thought that was just your sister or your carer. Like, how could a guy in a wheelchair have a good-looking, able-bodied girlfriend? And that was he was genuinely not trying to be a dickhead. He just genuinely believed that. And I was like, you know, and that was back in the days when there was, I guess, less voices in the disabled community. There was no social media. There was less people with profile changing that perception. And that's why the thing that I always talk about this, the reason I love playing sport and working on TV is the next time somebody sees someone in a wheelchair who's blind, is autistic or whatever, and they have a crush on them or they think they're cute, go ask them on a date. Hopefully seeing people like us in the mainstream will change their perception. That's my number one. And when I get DMs of people saying, hey man, just want to say I saw what you and Chantel talk about with your sex lives and that. Thanks so much. I'm now on Tinder and I got a root last night. I'm like, that is all, it's massive. Look at me, that makes me so happy because that's what and I'm honest, the thing I most struggle with my life, with my insecurities is dating, is sex. And I'm not going to lie, that was hard for me. I'm sure it was hard for you. It's hard for a lot of people with disabilities. It still is sometimes. And I would be a fraud if I didn't talk about it because I want to make it easier for other people as well. And I mean, look at me, I've, out of nowhere, got the best looking, amazingly talented girlfriend who is a doctor of sex. That's her job. I mean, am I not the envy of every human in the world? Like, I really am.
Well, you've hit rockstar status.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't mean to blow these up. Like, you're presenting on TV, commentating on sport. Your relationship status is in the front page of a newspaper, which is unheard of for Paralympians. Paralympians are the people that assume they must be grateful for every little morsel, that are slightly broken, but are focused on the process. They're not rock stars. Where did the rock star come from?
I don't know where the Rockstar came from. I think people ask me that question, like, how do you have cut through, right? And I learned this when I was 16, 17. I have always been authentic to me. Whether you and I are talking right now and there's cameras, whether we're at a pub, whether at a festival, whether I'm playing sport, I'm always me. And I hope when I meet people in public, they're like, oh, that guy seems exactly what he's like on TV or on radio or whatever, because I can't be anybody else than me. And I can't be an imposter and things like that. And I still can't believe, I'm like you, mate. I cannot believe people have bought into the story and that. And you know, I probably get asked for like 50 photos a day. Like if I'm in a busy street, like that's just crazy. Like it really is. It just hasn't happened for athletes with a disability, people with a disability, whatever it is. And you know, I used to think that might make me feel better, make me feel good, and it's so lovely. But what it does is it gives me hope that those people have a different perception of people with a disability now, because they don't see. They used to be, look at that guy in a wheelchair, but now like, oh, there's Dylan. They don't care about the wheelchair. And my sole goal is to hopefully make that trickle down to everybody else, to other athletes with a disability, to other musicians with disabilities, to actors, actresses, to people in workplace. You know what I mean? And hopefully it works. But yeah, the Rockstar cool guy element is crazy.
We both grew up in a time where we were the only people that we saw on TV were speaking about don't drive your car fast or you'll end up like this kid. Yet we've come to a place where we love who we are. We wouldn't imagine life. Right now, we wouldn't imagine life without being who we were, which is proud men with disabilities. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't always that way, right?
It was pretty much the direct opposite of that. I hated myself. I hated my disability. I got bullied because of my disability. And I used to get called a cripple or a spastic everywhere that I went. And that stuff made it really hard for me. You know, I believed them. I believed that I was lesser than. And when I turned on the TV or the radio or flicked in the newspaper, I never saw anybody like me. That's what I struggled with the most. And I couldn't be. I loved Pat Rafter, right? I couldn't be Pat Rafter. I couldn't be. I'd watch Rove McManus on Rove Live. I couldn't be Rove either. Like I couldn't, you know, we were different and there was nobody like us. And I was like, F that. I want to change that, you know what I mean? And I think that's been one of my driving forces. And you know, I feel bad that I'm playing on Laver Arena and I'm on TV and the generations of Paralympians before me, no one even knows who they are. That sucks. They should have been known, you know what I mean? And I fully appreciate that I'm the lucky one that people do, and we just need to set that example for the next generation of athletes, people to come, that they can get out there and live the lives that they want to live. And I guess that's been the main fire in the belly to do that. But being disabled sucks sometimes as well, you know what I mean? Like it still does for us, you know? I got discriminated on a plane last year where they wouldn't let me on because it was too windy. And they got a security guard to escort me off. Like, what does that mean? That doesn't make sense, you know what I mean? And even though we're the lucky Paralympians, people might know, you know, we are also people with disability who face that discrimination from day to day. And if it happens to us, imagine what's happening to everybody else where they don't have a voice. And that breaks my heart, you know, it really does.
I always describe that moment where you see a reasonable face all of a sudden just look through you.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, when people come up to me and they speak to the person next to me and ask them if I'm going to be okay, and that person next to me is a complete stranger. They go, I don't even know who he is. Why don't you ask him? And it's like, am I not a person with a soul and a voice and what's going on here? You know what I mean? And I'll go back to it. I literally think, what if I was not Dylan Alcott, a 40-year-old lady with MS, you know, a young kid with autism, whatever it is. Imagine how they get treated. They're trying to buy me bottles of wine because they feel bad, because they realise they stuffed up, or they're trying not to get on social media or whatever it is. What if you don't have that? And I guess that's why I'm so passionate to try and change that. You know, that's why we do what we do, because that would suck. And I imagine never being able to go on a date. You know, you got a family, I want to have a family. I couldn't imagine not having Chantel in my life. And people with disability don't get that sometimes because people don't give them a chance. And hopefully, you know, we can be examples to give more people opportunities to do what they want to do.
When did sport change your world? I know it changed your world. When did it hit you and how?
I tell you why sport changed my life. It wasn't because I won a gold medal. It was when I first played tennis. I went to a tennis tournament, the Thaguna Open outside of Albury, right? I went with my doubles partner Heath. We used to play a bit together. I got there. I would have been 11 or 12, super fat, like I was obese. My chair was like this. And I tell you the craziest part about that tennis tournament, I'd never seen someone in a wheelchair drive a car. They were all driving. I'd never seen someone in a wheelchair like me and may have a wife who wasn't. I was like, hang on, are they together? Like, I didn't know that world. That's what I learned the most, the social aspect of sport. If I could take away all the gold medals and everything, that was the biggest thing that sport has given me, is I guess that belonging into a community, but also being proud of who I was. And it just so happened I was good at it, you know what I mean? But that element of it was epic for me when I was young. And then it gave me a purpose to get fit, to have a goal. I'd never had a goal before, you know. I was just sitting home eating Doritos, not wanting to go to school because I felt like I was that spastic that I was getting called, you know what I mean? And it gave me that avenue. And then I got fitter. You get fitter, you get attention off the opposite sex, you look better. You know, sport just started me on a I guess trajectory where I am today. And we would not be talking right now if I wasn't playing sport. Not because I didn't even know if I'd be here. Like, I cannot stress how much I hated the person that I was and the hole that I was in. And like, I don't know what I would be doing if I'd be here at all. So,
and you brought me to a moment where I saw wheelchair racing for the first time, and it was a guy with a good-looking partner,
Mate.
And he did drive, and he walked over to me and he said, get rid of those handles off the back of the chair,
Yeah.
get rid of those brakes, you push yourself always, and you choose when you stop.
Yeah.
No one else, not the brake.
People would not expect that answer, would they? They'd be
No.
like, oh, it's because you want to go mainly play on Laver Arena. It wasn't that. And to any person watching this with a disability or not, you know, but in particular disability, get out there and have a crack and that, because the health benefits are known, but the social aspect of it is special. It's a special community to be part of. And I feel privileged to be a part of it. And, you know, I guess now one of the people leading it, it really means a lot to me. And it's, you know, you can hear in our voice how much it means to us.
Dylan, I remember you as an 18-year-old kid who won a first Paralympic gold medal in the men's wheelchair basketball team, and you've taken both the sport and the community of people with disabilities into rooms that I would have never imagined that we would enter, and you've done it in a genuine way and always, always pushing excellence. Thanks for joining me on 1+1.
Good on you, brother. And I mean, you know how much you mean to me. And if you had told you and I in 2008 that it would have happened for both of us, we wouldn't have believed that. You know, we hoped for it, but to actually have that, you know, cut through has been crazy. So I can't bloody thank you enough, brother.